And good evening, everyone. Thanks for clicking on WDTV.com. I'm Carrie Galiotis.
And I'm Ben Katko. Here's the top stories we've been following here on 5 News today. An early morning apartment fire in Morgantown has left several people homeless tonight.
That's right. Now, originally we were told only 2 people had to be taken to the hospital, but now we're learning a 3rd person also needed treatment. And despite all of that, there's still no word on what caused that fire. Now, it broke out a little before 6 this morning at an apartment building on Brockway Avenue. Apparently, 7 people live in that complex, and they were all able to make it out alive. Now, the 3 people who were hurt are expected to be okay. One person who lives there was arrested right outside while firefighters tried to put out the flames. 23-year-old Derek Blankenship was charged with public intoxication, disorderly conduct, and obstructing an officer. The chief of the Morgantown Fire Department said that fire is not suspicious, but he estimated that it caused around $125,000 worth of damage. He mentioned that the building has not been ruled a total loss, but it has been condemned. And because some folks who live there are WVU students, the Office of Student Affairs is working with them to find them some new housing.
7 people were arrested after a meth lab bust in Gilmer County last night. State police said troopers were executing a search warrant at a home on Dusk Camp Road in the Sand Fork area. The homeowner, Rita Brown, told officers that there was a meth lab on the back porch. Other officers also found a bottle bubbling inside that home. Police made the 5 people inside get out so the lab could be deactivated. They then continued to search the home when they found James Ware and Joshua Casada hiding. They also found more things used to make meth, as well as marijuana, scales, and money. All 7 people you've seen here on your screen were arrested on charges of operating a clandestine lab.
And federal workers could start facing furloughs as early as April unless Congress steps in to stop some automatic spending cuts. Now, these across-the-board cuts are set to kick in March 1st. The so-called sequester would trim $1.2 trillion from the federal budget over a decade. Agencies would have to negotiate with unions, then give employees 30 days notice before giving furloughs. Now, that's not likely to happen until after the March deadline. Now, the sequester can be avoided if Congress and the White House agree on a plan to reduce the deficit. President Obama has called on Congress to pass a short-term fix to give them more time.
A tax watchdog group says Facebook will pay no state or federal taxes on its profits for 2012 and will even get a $500 million refund. Citizens for Tax Justice says it found in Facebook's annual earnings report the social network won't owe any taxes on its $1.1 billion in pre-tax profits for last year. Well, that's according to a story in Bloomberg Business Week. The tax research group says Facebook is using stock options and other forms of compensation to investors and employees for the write-off. Analysts say the move is legal and related to the company's decision to go public last year. A Facebook spokeswoman contacted by Bloomberg Business Week declined to comment on the tax break, but pointed out tax benefits were discussed on a recent analyst conference call. Last week in his State of the Union address, President Barack Obama suggested in his speech raising the minimum wage to $9 an hour.
And we wanted to see how business owners felt about this idea, so today we spoke with folks at Main Street Morgantown, who represents more than 200 University City businesses. Last week when the president made his annual speech, a lot of his proposals made headlines. One of the most talked about of his suggestions was his idea to raise the minimum wage by $1.75 over the next 2 years. Officials with Main Street Morgantown say they don't expect to see a huge change if that does end up happening. The reason for that, they said, most of the businesses they represent already pay their employees more than the minimum wage.
Most employees, if they're already paying above minimum wage, if minimum wage does not go up to that salary, you don't normally get paid above that. You still get paid the wage you were getting paid.
They also mentioned that the rise in minimum wage should impact businesses who hire a lot of seasonal employees, something we don't see a lot in downtown Morgantown.
All right, let's take a peek at what our newsroom's working on for Fox 10 at 10 and 5 News at 11. First up, after the storms we saw in the last year, like the derecho and Superstorm Sandy, could you be eligible for tax breaks this year when you file? Well, we'll answer that question for you tonight.
And plus, student loan debt is mounting more and more each year. We'll tackle the question of, is it really worth it to go to college?
And that's what's making news this evening, of course. Be sure to tune into Fox 10 at 10 with Carrie Lynn, 5 News at 11 with myself tonight for the latest news and weather.
And until then, have a great night.